back, and we just finished watching 2008's Ponyo by Studio. Ah!
You were figuring out how to pronounce the other word, you totally botched the one that you knew how to say.
Studio Ghibli, or Ghibli, depending on how you want to say it.
Do you want to start this over?
No, let's just leave it. It's kind of funny. So we just finished watching 2008's Ponyo. We're giving ourselves a challenge to watch movies that we haven't previously watched before. I thought I had seen this, but I don't think I have. I think we were watching a movie sort of in this vein.
I mean, we've seen other Studio Ghibli movies.
Right, but
I've never seen this one ever.
No, I haven't seen it either. But weren't we watching something the other day, sort of in this vein? Also, a girl who wanted to be.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a Studio Ghibli movie.
No, it was. I don't know what it was, but it was just really weird.
Not that this wasn't,
Not
but.
that this wasn't weird.
Okay, so
that
maybe
one
we
was
should.
Pretty bizarre too.
Yeah, and even the ending, wasn't she like?
She turned into a narwhal or something, or a weird fish.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I wish I'd written it down because I kind of wanted to see it with the kids. Like, this was so bizarre that I don't know how to feel about it. But anyway, I digress. So this was G's pick. Excellent.
Excellent.
Stop it. What were your impressions?
I loved the mom so much.
Yeah, Lisa was
irresponsible, too young, stupid as crap.
You know what? There was a point where I thought there was going to be a reason why she was so desperate to get back to their house.
In the middle of a raging storm.
In the middle of a raging storm where the roads are getting washed out.
Yeah.
She is so insistent, we have to get back to the house. We have to get back to the house. And I'm thinking, it's because it'll turn out that she was once a Ponyo and like there was magic protecting them from the wizard guy. But that
would have been great. I actually like your story.
That didn't happen at all. She was just irresponsible.
Yes.
There was no reason to go back to that house.
She put her child's life at risk.
She put her life in danger. She put her child's life in danger. She's driving like a lunatic.
That's through the whole movie.
Yeah, throughout the whole movie. I remember there was one scene where she's driving along the road, this narrow little road at like super high speed, and she almost basically does a head-on collision with a van
as she's trying to get a bite of the sandwich.
She's trying to eat ice cream from her son, and she's just like, "Come on, give me a lick before it melts."
Not even before we crash.
Yeah, that's your concern.
Or we either crash into an oncoming car or plunge off the railing to the other side of the road.
There were several instances where like the side wheels of her car were not touching the ground.
She's taking turns on two wheels. It was like, what is the rush in this sleepy little town? You are the worst mother ever.
You know, it's funny because I try not to judge other people, and of course this is just a cartoon, an animated film. However, yes, I agree. I was watching this with absolute horror and just my heart in my throat as she was maneuvering those corners.
In the front seat, she's like, put your seatbelt on, by the way. And the kid's just like hanging off the back seat.
And I think the scene where she's like, I gotta get back to the old people. I was like, wait a minute, you're leaving your 5-year-old son with his little 5-year-old friend alone in a house that the water is coming up to your front door. What
She's not even 5 years old.
Yeah, we don't even know, right? Because she's a fish and God knows how long she is.
As a human, she's not even 1.
Right.
And she's completely insane. She's just running around screaming.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it was almost like, it's so funny. It's so funny because, like, okay, so when I was watching this, we should see if we could find this movie because I was thinking of I was thinking about 2 movies. The first one was Little Mermaid, which is just absolutely awful.
This clearly was
I hated Little Mermaid.
This was clearly a kind of
variation
retelling of The Little Mermaid. And I gotta say, based upon Disney's version of Little Mermaid and this version of Little Mermaid, The Little Mermaid is a terrible story.
It is.
I don't care who's making it. It's just not a good story.
Well, okay. So my other thing was the other movie that I was thinking about, and we should see if it's like on Max or Disney Plus.
Everything's on Max.
Yeah. What was I saying? Splash with Daryl Hannah and Tom Hanks.
I haven't seen that since I saw it in the theater.
Well, I think I've seen it like on Channel 11 or something, but it reminded me of that because remember in the beginning they knew each other as children, and then later on.
I don't remember a damn thing.
Really?
About Splash.
I loved that movie.
I think John Candy was in it.
Yes, I think he's his brother, right?
I vaguely recall that.
Anyway, so long story short, Ponyo is the story of a
fish,
a little fish girl
who rises to the top of the ocean one day and sees a little boy named Sosuke, who
she escapes from her
wizard dad. Right.
I don't know what he's doing. He's making sort of
elixirs,
random juices.
Yeah, and trying to. He's sort of like the custodian of the balance of the earth and the sea and the whatever. Anyway, long story short, much like most dads, he worries. He might over worry, and this creates a sort of friction between him and his multitude of daughters. In particular with. What was her name? Brunhilde?
Brunhilde, yeah. She was unique amongst the others, but she was way larger than the rest of her sisters.
Yeah, but the sisters seem to love her.
Yeah, they all seem to love her. Her tiny little sisters were basically fit, like they were guppies. Very fish. They were guppies. Ponyo was more. She was still a fish, but she had a human head. The other ones had tiny little human heads, but they didn't really have much in the way of features. That could have just been the artwork.
So then she rises to the top. She sees Sosuke, immediately falls in love with him. No.
She. This was like the one thing where you could say it was better than the Little Mermaid. In the Little Mermaid, the Disney version I'm talking about, she looks at this guy on a boat and is instantly in passionate romantic love with this total stranger to the point where she's going to sacrifice her entire way of life.
Leave her family behind.
Yeah, she is a legitimate.
And willing to give up her voice.
Willing to give up her voice. She's a legitimately like sentient thinking being. She's whatever. Ponyo was still kind of like an animal. She had very basic desires.
I'm gonna stop you right there.
Okay.
The reason why that happened was because Ponyo got stuck in a jar.
Okay, well, all right, that's true.
That's true.
Okay, Ponyo is swimming. She finds herself suddenly in like near civilization. She gets her head stuck in a jar, and the little boy saves her, and in doing so, cuts his finger, and she licks some of his blood, which starts off this chain reaction of her becoming more human. But even after that, I don't think she falls instantly in love with him. It's after he sort of takes care of her for a long time.
Okay. You know what? That's fair.
And as far as his feelings toward the fish, he's a little kid who's like, oh, I found a fish. I love this fish.
Right.
It's
he's
like
5. Yeah.
The love in this movie is more innocent.
Yes.
It's not romantic love. There's no sexuality. It's
my God. They're 5.
Yes.
Well, according to Imdb.
The Parent's Guide.
The Parent's Guide rears its ugly head. Well, let's discuss the movie first, and then we can laugh. We can have a nice laugh about the Parent's Guide. So,
the Parent's Guide is awful, and it should never be alive.
It's good for
it's
laugh,
funny
it's
as
funny.
hell.
But so the other parallel I wanted to kind of point out was, so when I'm watching this, I'm thinking about Splash. In Splash, in the beginning, the Tom Hanks character and the Daryl Hannah character are children. Mm-hmm. She's a mermaid, he's a human boy. He falls off the boat.
Seriously, if I watched Splash again, it would be a completely new movie to me because I don't remember anything.
Wow, really? I feel like that's how it started. They knew each other, and then many years later, they sort of get reintroduced to each other. So, but that was more of a romantic story. He takes in this woman, and she kind of learns. I think that's where I made the correlation between her and Ponyo, and where it's almost like she's learning as she's living in this new environment, right? Her vocabulary increases, her ability to communicate gets better. She seems to adapt very well to the human world. The thing that I couldn't understand was why he needed to make this promise to always love her in order to keep the balance. Like, that wasn't really explained.
Because
Are you
Ponyo loved him.
Ponyo.
Okay. That was. Remember that crazy old lady who was like, "Oh, that fish has a human face. It's gonna bring a tsunami." It's just legend. It's just legend and fairy tale and folklore. I mean, basically, when all of this stuff started happening and Ponyo became a human, forced herself to become a human, willed herself to become a human.
You mean use her magic?
It was because she became imbued with this magical power, and she was still very young. She didn't really know
what was going
how
on.
to truly control it.
Right.
And it was making the world crazy. It
Right.
was making the oceans rose, and the moon was coming out of the sky, and there was prehistoric animals running around.
Yeah.
Really?
Or swimming around.
All those
Did you
fish.
seriously not realize that?
Yeah, all those
No,
fish
those were her sisters.
No.
When they're
remember
going-
all those crazy looking fish that were swimming?
And they were
Yes,
like,
those
they
were
were
her sisters.
Those
No, those were
her
not
sisters were
the
those
little ones.
little ponyos.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're
they
talking
turned
about when
into
they were
fish, and then they turned
when
back
they went
into
to
those
find
baby
the mother,
things.
when they went to find Lisa,
They were
how they were saying the names of the different fish under the sea.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
are all
All
prehistoric.
things from the Devonian era, which I guess was when the entire Earth was covered with seawater.
So, I mean, there's also, Miyazaki is trying to also sort of shine a light on how humans have corrupted the oceans, how pollution has destroyed the balance of nature and humans.
Well, that was touched very briefly.
It was touched very briefly, but I think that's also
in the Wizard's complaints.
right. But I
they
think
didn't
it's
really-
also part of the story. I mean, the first part of it, you're introduced to like all the waste in the water and this and his anger at just he really. It's the trope of the overbearing father, right? He wants to keep this separation between his daughters and the human world. He doesn't. He himself does not want them to mix because he
has
sees
bad experiences with the human world. He
Right.
sees the humans as disgusting and selfish,
and
Which
which
is
they
what they
are
are.
and he wants to keep her
right
away from that.
in a bubble, kind of.
In a literal bubble.
In a literal bubble, yeah, and just protect her like most good fathers or mothers would. But I think there's also themes of letting go and trusting that your kid, that you've given your child the guidance to make appropriate decisions with their lives. I mean, we have children and we are responsible for them, but ultimately we have to acquiesce that control. And I mean, obviously they're still very, very young.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be acquiescing control of.
No, not today or tomorrow. But it's weird because he's forced to do this to his daughter.
He's
I
not
mean, again,
forced to do that.
in a way,
wants to do
because
it.
no, he doesn't want to do it. He's forced to because this is the path that she's chosen. She chooses to want to be with Sosuke. She chooses to want to leave her father's home. She chooses to want to walk away from her existing family to make a new life with this other family. So, in that respect,
And get married to a kid.
well, I mean, marriage at 5 is frowned upon in most societies, I believe. So, I don't think that was where this was going. But
yeah, like I said, I don't. It wasn't to me. It wasn't a romantic love.
Yeah.
It was more just love.
Yeah.
Like,
Innocent, chill, childlike
child love. Yeah, it could have. Maybe when they grow up, they'll get married, or maybe they'll just view each other as brother and sister.
Right.
That's not really
The point of the
cemented in
story,
stone or anything like that.
yeah.
The main point was the father and the mother, who turns up eventually, are like, we need to know that this kid loves her and will.
No, the mother says that.
Okay.
Right.
We need to know that this child love her and take care of her.
Right.
And
Whether she's a fish or a
she's
human.
a fish or a human.
Being.
And then she has to make a decision too of whether to give up magic and become human or
So there's a lot of things going on here. I don't think that the go ahead.
One of the similarities with a version of Little Mermaid I'd read was that if he didn't choose to accept her, she'd turn into sea foam.
Which they also say in this movie, right?
That's what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
And the Little Mermaid just to stab herself.
In the original story, she turns into sea foam at the end. Because the original story is so wonderful too.
Yeah.
It's
No,
a terrible,
she said in the original story she has to stab herself.
Yeah, and that was
In
the
Grimm's
best
version?
part.
Oh yeah. Well, look,
Grimm's is so busy. Yeah, there's so
I
much.
love Grimm's fairy
Little Mermaid
tales.
is a terrible story.
Yeah.
It's a terrible. Stop making movies about it.
Yeah.
And while you're at it, stop making Peter Pan movies.
I think there's another one coming, isn't there?
Good God.
Jeez.
End this already.
Yeah.
End
There
our
haven't
suffering.
been, yes, there have not been any good ones. I mean, I like the one with Jason Isaacs, but it's still not a good movie. That's
I
the
don't
one
like
with
any Peter
Jeremy
Pan
Sumpter,
movies.
who was in Frailty.
I don't like any
Peter
of them.
Pan is a terrible story. That's
It
another.
sort of is.
We're going
It's
on a
never.
tangent.
It's yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But,
Sorry. So the other thing that I wanted to say is I sort of felt bad for the dad because
He was being
I don't
ignored by his own child.
kind of
Not.
kind of, but I feel like most fathers, there comes a point where you sort of have to let go, and
Yeah.
it's bittersweet. It's not something that I'm sure any father looks forward to, but there has to come some sort of acceptance, I think. And
he wasn't really a
bad guy.
Man.
He
was
just
not at all.
No, he was just super overprotective
He was overprotective and he hated people.
Yeah, which
I do. I hate people too.
He never wanted to kill anybody.
right.
Or he wasn't trying to enslave anybody.
Right. He just wanted to do what was best.
Yeah.
Right. He felt he was like the self-appointed keeper of the
oceans
SeaWorld.
or whatever.
Right. So yeah, I mean, it was sad in a way. I felt like. Because, I mean, he sort of had to give up a daughter. I mean, he's got like 1,000 more, but...
Yeah, that's like one of the things where I'm like, you know what? He basically kept her in a fish tank.
Right.
Along with the 10,000 other little Ponyo daughters that he had.
Yeah.
So...
Ponyo looking.
It almost... to me, it was almost like he was like chasing after a pet. Rather than a daughter. It wasn't until she actually started developing sentience, basically, where she's like, "My name's Ponyo," that you could sort of see. Oh, okay, now it's like a father-daughter relationship. But prior to that, it was just, "Where's my dog?" That's basically what it felt like.
Where's my dog?
Where's my pet?
Yeah, where's my
I gotta
Ponyo?
put her back in the fish tank.
I didn't get that, but that's okay. I mean, again, that's the beauty of movies, right? We all take our own personal experiences to them, interpret them in ways. I think with a lot of these Studio Ghibli movies, there's these fantastical elements that you yourself as a viewer have to take and dissect and kind of workshop and figure out what it means. Another thing about this movie, music is a huge, almost like a secondary character. Music brings the story along. It showcases high points, low points, happy points,
Yeah.
dramatic points. It's almost like its own secondary character, I feel like. And I think
Really?
I think so. I mean, there's a lot of music in the background, and it's in very specific places. Like the storm is so great, the music it becomes more frenetic and.
To me, that's just soundtrack. To me, that's just scoring. To me the music wasn't anything.
But
anything really unique or impressive.
It wasn't unique and impressive, but I think it also becomes part of the story because it adds a layer of emotion. Usually music is supposed to do that, right? You hear a song and you feel happy. You hear a song and you're like, oh my God, not the thong song again. Or, what was it? Oh, Nelly, right? The Summer of Nelly. Yeah. When my husband and I were dating, we used to go to brunch a lot, and he lived in Williamsburg, and we hit up the Kellogg's Diner every Saturday and Sunday, and there was a Summer of Nelly. There was a summer where that song played.
During one breakfast, it played at least
8 times. No, it had to be 8 times. Yeah. But anyway, we digress again. But
I mean, to me, that just felt like basically
Pure
generic
evil.
scoring. I mean, when there's moments of heightened tension in any movie you watch, there'll be music.
Possibly, but I think in this particular
like
piece,
John Williams. Was
no. But I think in this particular piece, it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's intentional.
What is wrong with you?
It's not. It's not incidental or it's not coincidence. I think it's intentional, and I think the types of music also they veered more towards classical. Like in the beginning, there's like something that sounds very operatic, right?
It's
pretty much
horrible.
was opera,
Yeah. So
I hate opera.
The closing credits song
is whatever it was.
Oh
Yeah.
I had to walk out of the room.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they shot 2 versions of it. There's like
Kid
the
friendly.
I guess like the
chorus.
Sweet Kids version that your child would drive you insane singing in a car, and then they just like break it down.
Yeah.
The techno remix, and they got like a rap break in it and everything. It's just like PONYO.
Yeah.
Around tummy.
That was actually a lyric from that song. Anyway, so anything else? Olive, what did you think of the movie? I don't think I got your opinion, did I?
Yeah, what do you think of this?
It was good, but the mom was terrible.
Yes,
I
the
hate
mom
it. I
was terrible. I think we can all
despise
agree
Lisa.
the mom was terrible.
Here's the-
It's funny. Again, we're gonna go on a tangent here. Another thing. Again, I don't know if I finished my thought before. I try not to judge other parents because it is a hard road. There is no guidebooks. You're sort of just winging it.
Technically, they're
However-
guidebooks.
True, but however, I feel like I was so horrified by this woman character. Even more so, we just recently, like in the last few months, I think we recently kind of caught like parts of E.T. And I was like, oh, that's right. Parents in the 80s used to just walk away and leave us the hell alone.
Yeah.
We were latchkey kids. And even though that was upsetting, like in this day and age, realizing that, it still did not infuriate me as much as this woman infuriated me.
Elliot's mom didn't throw him in the passenger seat of a car and then ride like 80 miles
Like
an
a
hour
hell.
down a windy highway that overlooks a cliff into the ocean.
Yes,
I mean,
with a flimsy barrier.
with a flimsy little barrier. I mean, there was one point where she actually drove through the curl of a wave that was crashing onto the highway
With her son.
with her son, and then wasn't there a point where like she got out of the car in the middle of the storm, and he like a gust of wind almost threw him off the cliff?
Yes. Oh my god.
And she just
Oh my
like grabs
God.
his wrist and like pulls him back in, and it's just like
Nothing. I know.
She had no.
My heart would have been in my throat.
Yeah, if that had happened, I would be like clutching my child to my chest as hard as I possibly could.
And saying like 5 Hail Marys.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, and she just leaves him. She's like,
She's like,
oh, I gotta go figure out what's going on with the old people.
The old people. We gotta save the old people. And then she's like, I know. I'll drive back to
There.
there.
God damn it. Oh. So,
they live on top of a cliff, and the water is like coming up. Everybody in town should be dead.
yes.
Okay, that was not a laugh. That was a scream. Don't ever do that again.
But, I
That
feel
gave
like
me
the
a heart
parental
attack.
choices in this
Please
film
don't.
were
Please don't do
horrific.
that
I think at that point, when she leaves him to go back to the
She's
nursing
like-
home, I was like,
she's
what
like,
is she doing?
You're in charge. You're 5 years old.
Yes,
5 years
5 years old. I'm like, what? These kids can't even wipe properly at 5. What are you doing? So still,
It was pretty.
It was pretty. It was pretty. Miyazaki knows how. Studio Ghibli does a great job doing these kids' movies.
Animation, dying art. You don't really see much
of it. It's lovely to look at. There's decent voice work. Tina Fey was the horrible Lisa.
That
was Tina Fey.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I was just like, what I
wonder if she's ever done any interviews about that.
I'm sure I would love for somebody to be like, what the hell were you doing?
What kind of woman am I portraying in this movie?
Yes. Kate Blanchett was Ponyo's mother. Liam Neeson was Ponyo's dad.
It's funny because he was looking for his daughter.
Yes. Yes! The funny part was when you said he should use his special skills to find his daughter. I laughed and laughed and laughed. I don't know if the children understood why, but anyway.
No, that was not funny.
It was funny. The next time we'll try to see Taken with you kids.
You've never seen Taken.
Yeah. Although, can we watch Taken with them? That end scene where she's like all drugged out and being auctioned off is like pretty intense. But anyway, so scale of 1 to 10.
I'm gonna give this movie a 7. Actually, 6.50.
6.50. What about you?
That mother really brought the point down.
I would probably give it somewhere between a 6 and a 7.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Olive G, what's your idea here?
I'll give it a 7 between an 8.
Between a 7
really?
and 8. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I too would give it a 6.5, 7. I think that's it's not a bad movie. There were some elements that just didn't translate well, I think, but all in all, for a kids movie, it's fine.
Time for the Parents Guide.
Oh yeah, right, the Parents Guide. But
Parents Guide has to say about this.
You know, it's funny because a couple of weeks ago, the kids and I were watching Spirited Away, which I love.
That's
love
my
that movie.
favorite.
I think it's such a great movie.
Although the parents in that movie weren't that great either.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, but it wasn't really their fault. They were sort of like drugged by the magic into eating all that stuff and turning into pigs.
So
True.
really quick, I feel like we need to address the IMDb Parents Guide because, again, there's so much psycho lunacy going on here. So for sex and violence, there is an instance... Sex and nudity. 2 instances of sex and nudity. Number 1, a boy kisses a girl inside a bubble. That's the sentence. A boy kisses a girl inside a bubble.
Wow, so
what the
sexual.
Hell does that even mean?
It's not sexual.
Do they mean like that part at the end where basically she sort of like splats on his face like a water balloon?
I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if you actually
really,
kissed
That
her.
wasn't sex or nudity.
Yeah, and that was barely a kiss. That was more like 2 heads colliding.
Yes. Number 2. A girl hugs a boy tightly and rubs her face against his. What? What does that mean?
It's not sex or nudity?
It's not sex or nudity.
Apparently it is to whoever wrote that.
There is, wait for it, 16 instances of violence in Gore.
You gotta be kidding me.
Number 1. A woman drives her son along the highway at the edge of the sea during a storm. She drives recklessly. The car skids to a stop, and she and her little boy exit. But the wind blows the boy over the rail and towards the sea. He is caught.
Okay, can I just speak really quickly?
Yes.
That was not violence or gore. That statement where where it says she was driving recklessly, that was true.
It was true. Everything
but
in that statement.
Violence.
It's not violence or gore. I would say it's more dramatic or
or
suspense.
It's drama.
It's drama. So, incorrect. It's not violence or gore. Number 2, a mother and a small boy in a car nearly run head-on into a van on a narrow, winding road. Correct. Yet, this is not an instance of violence or gore. Number 3, a 5-year-old boy uses matches to light a candle 3 times and burns his finger once and yells, "Ouch."
Yells, ouch.
I don't
So-
understand what the violence or gore
So
is in that
traumatic.
sentence, but there it is. Number 4. A mother leaves her 5-year-old son and his same-aged female playmate home alone late at night, and the boy becomes afraid when the mother does not return.
Violence and gore.
Yep, at its finest.
Number 5. A boy and a girl, both 5 years old, walk through a long dark tunnel, and halfway through she begins to turn into a fish and collapses. The boy cries and carries her out to the shoreline, and he dunks her in the water to revive her. She awakens. How is that violence or gore?
Yeah, I don't
Number
understand.
6. Several short scenes feature family arguments. Exactly. Number 7.
Violence and gore.
Oh my. Number 7. A husband and his wife argue over the phone and by signal beacon. And she slams the phone down and later slams a pot of greens into a sink.
Well, is that violence? The greens.
The greens, yeah, the greens were accosted.
I feel bad for those
8.
plants.
Number 8.
Part
A
of
girlfish. A girlfish argues several times with her human father about living on land, and he locks her in a bubble. She escapes, and this is repeated 3 times.
Wow.
Number 9. An old woman in a nursing home screams when a little boy shows her a goldfish with the face of a little girl, and the old woman screams that it is bad luck and the fish must go back to the sea. Number 10.
So
Several scenes
gory.
depict dark blue, big-eyed water blobs that grumble. What the hell is that mean?
Apparently it's violent.
Number 11. They lap up onto a shoreline and snatch back a girlfish after she tries to swim. Who's they? After she
The
tries
blobs.
to swim away. They splash up onto the shore to drive back a little boy who looks frightened, and they search for the girlfish several times. They grumble and gather together to form a wall to lift a man up and onto an island, but fall back into the sea. And in a few other scenes, they swim past ships at sea and shake them. First of all, that is the biggest, longest sentence ever. Whoever
That
wrote
was
that
a
really
waste of time.
was a waste of time, but this person really needs to know how to use punctuation marks.
Alright, I think I've had enough of the Family Guy. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
No, I want to read more.
No, we're done.
The idiocy is I feel like
It's
brain atrophy.
Yeah, so,
Secondhand cringe.
what do you think? Maybe 8 and up is an acceptable age range. It might be a little too dark for younger kids than that, maybe. Well,
What do
maybe
you mean
5.
dark?
I don't know.
I honestly,
I mean,
I
the
think
storms-
any kid could see this movie. It's
Yeah, except for babies. They might freak out.
I think parents would find it more disturbing in the mother's just complete reckless behavior. But
Right.
as far as like children, you're gonna see worse stuff on any episode of cartoon. It's
Yeah. I mean, just for people that have overprotective natures, I guess. I agree with you. I mean, I'm obviously a little bit more laissez-faire when it comes to these things because we always sit with the kids.
yeah.
We don't really let them watch movies on their own because it's something that we like to do as well. So we kind of all do it as a family. But
Yeah,
there can
this is
be...
why it's called Family Friday Film.
Exactly. So I think that there might be some hesitation on some parents' parts. I think it's important to sit with your children. I know that in lockdown or quarantine or whatever it is now, maybe you want to catch a break, whatever. You can, if you're watching a movie, if a child is engrossed, you can maybe have a moment to yourself. But sit with them, watch this, talk about it. You might be creating memories that you can treasure for a way longer time afterwards.
Yeah,
So-
like when you die.
Right. Okay. And with that somber note, we're going to wrap it up and we'll talk to everyone again.
No, save me from these monsters!